Hi, we're Ariel,
And Michelle,
and
and
we're
we're
the
the
Board
Board
Game
Game
Tutors.
Tutors.
We're going to be showing you today part 2 of Just the Basics for the board game Abyss. Let's go ahead and get started.
All right.
So, like we briefly explained in the last video, but I just want to hammer the point down so it's completely clear. There are 3 segments of the board. The top part, which is called the depths for some reason, the middle part, which is called the council, and the lower part, which is called the court. So on any given turn that you have in this game, you will be doing one action in each of those areas, and that's your turn. So you could do exploring the depths, and that's your turn. The play then passes to the next player. You could do one action in the council, and then that's it, and then it's next player's turn. Or you could do one action in the court, and then it goes to the next player's turn. Okay.
Yeah, so just remember you do either the top or the middle or the bottom, not two, not three of those.
Yeah, you only get to do one action in one of those areas on every turn that you get in the game, and then play passes clockwise to the next player. In a 2-player game, obviously, it doesn't matter that much, but in a 4-player game, which is the maximum that you can play in this game, then that matters. So obviously, you got to keep track of who's next. It's not that hard, obviously. If a 4-player match, it's not that many players. So let's go ahead and move to the third section, which we haven't gone that far into yet. So we're looking at the court. And you can see these are all the lords that you can recruit to join your cause. So the way that we're going to do this is, so let's go about recruiting lords. So otherwise known as paying for lords. So these lords will not join your cause unless you convince them that your cause is worthy. And how are they convinced? Primarily through those friendly sea creatures that you get in these first 2 sections. So the board doesn't look exactly the same as it did in the previous video. We've changed some things just to show you some illustrations of how play works. So let's say several turns have passed. You've accumulated cards in pearls, um, cards from there, cards from here, pearls from different methods. So you have pearls now and cards. So let's say, for example, Michelle's hand was these 2 cards. Obviously, not that impressive, but it's just for the example. So she has a level 5 jellyfish and a level 3 jellyfish. So looking at what she has, she can recruit a lord from the court. Now you have to look closely here. So like I said, these numbers and the symbols are important. So let's, for example, look at this illusionist. Um, that gives you 9 victory points or influence points at the end of the game. But if you look here, this bottom left corner of the card is the most important part of the card for recruiting purposes. So you can see here, I have a 5 jellyfish and a 3 jellyfish. This is Michelle's hand, obviously. Here, when you see just one bubble with just one symbol in it, in this case it's jellyfish, over here it's one bubble and it has a crab symbol, this lord only accepts influence, the influence of allies of that particular sea creature. So, in the assassin's case right here, he only accepts crab allies as uh, ways of buying his influence, and the illusionist only accepts jellyfish to help purchase their influence. So that's the important thing. You see here, there's one bubble. That means they only take one particular ally, and they specify there. And also it tells you what number you need to have of that ally. So here I have a 5 and a 3. You add those 2 together, that's an 8. Michelle does not currently have enough to get this illusionist. But like we said, we've modified several things on the board. Let's look at her little clamshell. She has 2 pearls. So what Michelle can do is pearls, like I said, um, you can use those as currency. So like we said, we have 8 influence over that illusionist, but we need 10. So pearls function as wild cards. So Michelle could use these 2 pearls, pay them to the bank. Now she has this illusionist as a lord that works for her now. So we don't have tons of space here just for purposes of having a condensed area. So let's just move this a little bit. So this would go in Michelle's individual player area that shows these are her cards. And since she paid these 8 points, plus the 2 pearls as a wild card, um, she does not have these allies helping her in future turns. So what works the way this works is you look at the allies that you played. Whichever is the lowest number is the card that you get to keep as an affiliated ally. That's just a fancy way of saying you don't get to use their skill anymore, their level 3 jellyfish skill, in this particular case. But now you get to hold on to this card for end game scoring. This will help you and give you 3 more points at the end of the game. So you would just set that aside. This 5 is now used, and it goes into the used pile directly underneath this stack, under Explore the Depths, the deck that's in Explore the Depths. So that card can no longer be used unless this whole deck is used up and it gets shuffled back inside. So this 3 that Michelle has, it would just go to the side. Obviously, we don't have that much space right here, but this would go to the side. It's no longer in her hand. She can no longer use this card except for endgame scoring purposes. So I'm just going to turn it sideways just to show she can't use that for her hand. And now, the last step when you recruit a lord is wherever you took the lord from, if you took it from here, if you took it from here, this lord goes over here. Now, obviously you can tell on Michelle's lord, there's text here and the name. We are ignoring that for the time being. We're going to explain that in another video. So, this is just how you buy lords. So, like we said, this assassin was here. He gets pushed this way. Basically, if you took one from here, then these 2 would go. Basically, they just slide over whenever a lord is bought. So, now this like we said, this assassin would be the same as that jellyfish lord. He needs 10 points, but only crabs. And you can use pearls as wildcards. Okay, now next, we're going to do a lord that isn't as simple as that. We're going to use the schemer as an example. You see here, he has a big bubble, which means this is his required ally. He needs to have at least 1 card that is a squid, because it has a little tentacle. But now you see there are other bubbles here. 1 bubble, 2 bubbles. This means you need to have at least 2 other ally races of so like we said, he definitely needs squid, 1 card minimum that has a squid. But then he also needs, as a minimum, 2 other sea creature allies. These could be jellyfish, jellyfish, or crabs, or let's say seahorse and crabs, or jellyfish and seahorse, or crustacean and seahorse. Basically, you can see it doesn't really matter. You just have to meet that minimum. He has to have 3 different allies. One of them has to be a squid. So.
And you can only have a maximum of 3 factions represented.
Yeah.
When you pay for this, so you can't have a card from a 4th one.
Yeah. So you can't say I'm going to use cards from the squid faction, the jellyfish faction, the crustacean faction, and the seahorse faction. No, the 4th one would make it so you can't grab this lord. You need to achieve this number 8 using 3 different factions. One of them definitely a squid. Mm-hmm. And so these will change among the different lords. Some lords will have they're a crab person, but they need 2 other things as well. So it's a little hard to wrap your head around, but basically the big one, you definitely need that, and you need 3 different, counting all 3 of the bubbles. Sometimes it'll just be 2, but yeah, so that's that. So I'm going to look in my hand over here, and you don't have a hand limit when you play this game unless there's a specific limitation on the board. So what I need here is I need 3 different factions, at least 1 squid card, and it has to total 8 or exceed 8. So if the points that I had go over, that's okay. That's just what happens. So let's see here. I'm going to use these 2 squid. And let's see here. I'll grab these cards. I'm going to put these extra cards over here. They'll be used for the next example. So let's see what we have. All right. So I've accumulated all these cards, obviously, from taking them from the depths and from taking them from the council. And so I have a fair amount of cards here. I look here, so I have at least one squid, which is a level 1, so that's okay. I meet that requirement of having squid. I also have several seahorse, and I have one crab. So I've met the 3 different sea creature ally factions. So I've met those 3 bubble requirements. Now I just need to get to 8. So you can use any combination of that. You can exceed 8, you can go up to 9, you can go up to 10. But you kind of want to do this efficiently because you still want to have other cards to buy other lords. So let's say, for example, I'm going to use both of these level 1 squids, so that's 2. I'm also going to use, let's see, let's just say I'm going to use a level 3 seahorse, so that's 5. And let's see here, I'm going to use a level 2 crab. So that means I'm at 7. Okay, so that's not quite high enough. So what can I do? Well, I could use this 2, and then that would be a 9, and then that would work. Or I could just use this 1, which would be the more effective use of the card, because then I'm exactly meet 8. So then we have, let's double check this, 3 plus 2 is 5, plus 1, 2, 3, that's 8. So I would keep this level 2 jellyfish in my hand and use it for another purpose. Put it aside. And now I've met the 8 requirement. I have at least one squid, and I have 3 different factions represented. So this is completed. I have successfully acquired the schemer. And now, like I said in the previous example, you look at your cards that you used in this example. Okay, I am going to keep any of the level 1s because they're all level 1, so they all tie for the last lowest place. So I am going to hold on to level 1 seahorse. I'm going to turn it sideways. That is the affiliated ally that I currently have. All of these cards, which I have currently used up, they get tossed aside
into the discard
pile with that level 5 jellyfish. So there go there. Okay, so I would take the schemer. I don't have the space. I'm just going to put it here just to show that I got that schemer. All right, now the last example here that we're going to do for recruiting lords. Obviously, this would go back and forth. Like if I had enough resources to buy a lord, I would buy a lord. Then it would go to Michelle. If she had enough resources, then she would buy a lord, etc. And obviously, you'd end up having to go back to get more cards to continue to have the resources to buy a lord. So let's just swap places of these 2 lords just so it's more centered. Right here, we have the Hermit. He's a special lord. There's a few copies of him, and not him, but
this type of
lord in the deck. We'll go more into that when we describe the lords in detail. We look here. He has no big bubble with a particular symbol in it, so that means he does not have a particular requirement of, oh, I need to have this card primarily. This type of, like this jellyfish is primarily, or crab primarily. But if you look, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 circles. That is all 5 factions of different sea creature allies in the game. This means he needs one of every single type. He needs 1 jellyfish card minimum, 1 crab card minimum, 1 seahorse minimum, 1 crustacean minimum, and 1 squid minimum. And they have to reach a total of 10. So, up to this point, I've collected some cards, and you can see I have all the colors. I have a squid, a crab, a seahorse, a jellyfish, and a crustacean. And let's go ahead and see if I met the total. So 3 plus 2 is 5, 5 plus 3 is 8, 8 plus 1 is 9, 9 plus 2 is 11. So you can see here, I've actually exceeded the number that I needed. So I met the 10, or I exceeded it, which I have met the 10 and I've exceeded it. So I can grab this Hermit. I wouldn't be able to do this normally. I just grabbed the schemer. I couldn't just grab the Hermit again, but normally, except in certain circumstances. So in this case, I have met his requirements. I would draw the Hermit.
So imagine that this is now a different turn.
Yeah. So that would be mine. I would look among these cards. I have 1/1, so I would just take that de facto because I can't have a choice if I don't have multiple low-level cards. This level 1 crab would become my ally, affiliated ally, and these cards would go away. Right? Now, let's say, okay, so as you can see in these examples, the assassin, he takes all crabs. In this example, the landlord requires crustaceans plus one other faction, and the jailer over here, he takes crabs, definitely, plus two other factions, so 3 total. So, let's just say someone else also bought, doesn't matter which lord out of these 3 is taken, but let's just say the assassin was taken. And that was taken and someone else bought that. Now you can see, once you have exhausted 4 lords from the court, whoever buys the 4th lord gets, as a bonus for taking that 4th lord, 2 extra pearls. So if you look up here, remember, if you get all the way over here in exploring the depths, you get a pearl as a bonus. If you take the lords up to this point, you get 2 pearls as a bonus. So that would go into effect at this particular time. So that player would get 2 pearls, and at this point, you would replenish all the lords to fill up the whole thing, like so. All right. So now you have a full court area.
Mm-hmm.
So this is important because let's say, for example, let's put these back right now. Let's say there was just one lord left before someone got the 2 pearl benefit. So one tactic that you can use if you want to stop someone from getting that 2 pearl benefit is, if you have any pearls in your area, you can pay at the beginning of your turn 1 pearl. This is an optional rule, by the way. You don't have to play with this. You can pay 1 pearl. So I just paid 1 pearl at the beginning of my turn, for example. Then you can take 1 lord and put it there. And you can do this for as many pearls as you have and as many empty spaces you have left. So in this particular instance, you might want to do that just so that someone doesn't get that 2 pearl bonus. All right, so that's that. Okay. And also, as you can see on some of these lords, they have keys here. We're not going to talk about that until we get to locations later in the video. All right, so let's just push these aside for right now. And let's go ahead and go to monsters now. So, like we said, when you draw cards, when you explore the depths, something that you need to know is, obviously, you can get friendly sea creature allies. Interactions go, obviously, you ask the other player you're playing with, or other players if you're playing with multiple people, if they want to buy that friendly sea creature first. But that is not the only option of what you can find in exploring the depths. So, for example, let's see what the first card is if we explore the depths here. This has no number, and you can see it's this humongous monster thing. Obviously, it doesn't look that humongous because it's a pretty small card, so it doesn't look like a huge monster, but if you look closely there, it looks like that monster is about to eat a mermaid or something. So this is called a monster card, and this is where this deck, this piece of cardboard over here, and these tokens over here come into play. When you draw 1 monster, doesn't matter what position it's in, but when you draw 1 monster, you look at the monster track. This is what this board is here. You see where this monster marker is. It's on the first spot here. If you want, and if you want to not take a chance and keep going, because obviously you can keep drawing cards, you could get the benefit on this particular level. You can see here, you could get either 1 pearl or 1 monster token. Monster tokens are over here. So you can decide when you draw a monster card, do I want 1 pearl from the bank to put in my area, or do I want the first monster token? Monster tokens, they vary in point value. This one is a 2. And I believe the highest one is a 4, but I'm not sure off the top of my head. But so they range in point value. These are just bonus points at the end of the game. and you don't disclose what the number is if you draw that token to your fellow players. But let's say, well, I don't really want to fight this monster right now. When you fight a monster, it's an automatic win. You just win the fight, which doesn't seem like much of a fight. But anyway, you get the benefit of fighting that monster. Okay, let's say you don't want to do that. Let's move on because I don't want that particular benefit. It's not that good yet. Every time that you pass on a monster, this track moves up once. So you get here, if you look here, you get 2 pearls, or 1 pearl and a monster token, or 2 monster tokens. So as you can see, it gets better and better. And eventually you get up to this level, you can get a key. Keys are important for locations, which we will explain later. Over here you get a key plus a pearl, or that. Basically whenever there's this line, that means or. So you get to determine what you want. And the last level here is you get 2 keys.
So every time someone passes on fighting a monster, this goes up, and then the next time a monster comes up, the person has the option of getting that new benefit level.
And also, remember before how I was telling you, if you draw allies and you put them there, you always have to ask your opponent first if they want to buy that card. With monsters, allies cannot say, oh, I'll challenge that monster. No, that's not their option. Only you, as the active player, can determine whether or not you want to fight a monster.
And if you do fight the monster, then you're done exploring the depths for that turn, right?
So you don't get a card. You just get the benefit that that is designated on this side track over here. So I am going to pass on this right now. Michelle doesn't get to decide if she wants to fight the monster. So the benefit now is, like I said, these 3 options. So I'm going to go to the next card. It's a level 3 jellyfish. I would ask Michelle right now if she wanted to buy this, but if you look in Michelle's money pile, she has nothing, so she can't buy if she doesn't have money. So I would just say, okay, well, no, I want to skip that. Okay, that's a level 4 jellyfish. Do I want to keep that one? Well, no, not really. That's not what I'm looking for right now, let's say. So I'm going to skip that one. Draw the next card. It's a monster. So at this point, I decide, do I want one of these 3 benefits? No, not really. I'm going to move this down again. So now, the next time I fight a monster, I would get a key. I'm going to draw the last card. It's another monster. Okay, so at this point, I'd follow the rule. I get a pearl, because you always follow that rule. And it's a monster. So, like I said, Michelle doesn't have the money. She couldn't buy before with these 2. And with monsters, she doesn't have the option of doing so. If you draw a monster on the last card in this space, like I said, I got the pearl, and you do not have an option. You must fight the monster at this point. And like we said, fighting a monster is a definitive win. There's no chance of you possibly losing. You look over at this track over here, I would get a key, and then this would reset back to the start, and I would grab a key. And this would go in my personal area of my stuff, right over here. Alrighty, so, and then now, okay, so like we learned before, any allies that you have that match the colors here would go into that particular pile. So I'm going to take these 2 jellyfish and put them here face down. And any monsters that were on the field, whether it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., all of these monsters would go in the discard pile over here. These cards don't want to cooperate. There we go. They go in discard. Alright, so that's what would happen if you had monsters, whether there was just 1 monster that showed up or multiple monsters. Okay, so we've gone over lords, we've gone over monsters. Now, last but not least, we are going to go over locations. I'm going to move these lords over here out of the way. Okay, so like we said, the board's a little condensed in this example, but it's just so, obviously I can't reach very far, so I made it such that I had the minimum amount of space so I could reach around and Michelle could videotape all of this. So normally when you play a game, probably somewhere at the bottom of the board, but for illustrative purposes, I'm just going to stick it here, just so it makes it easier. There would be 1 location at the very beginning of the game that would be visible to everyone. Now, whenever you accumulate 3 keys, whether it's a key that you get from a lord, obviously if most of the lords have just 1 key, this lord has 1 key, this lord has 1 key. Once you have 3 keys, then you can buy a location. Actually, not even you can, you must buy a location if you get 3 keys. Some lords will give you 3 keys, definitely, all by themselves. So these lords would automatically get you 1 location. And I bought one of these earlier, so I would have had to follow that, but I was just skipping that rule temporarily. So, whenever you acquire 3 keys, you can take the location that is here, the starting location that was revealed at the very beginning of the game, or you can choose 1 out of up to 4 locations from this pile over here. So, whenever so I might look at this. What are locations, you might ask? We'll go more in depth on our locations video, but they basically boost your point value. So depending upon what cards you have in your possession, what lords you have in your possession, what allies you have in your affiliated ally area, not in your hand, that doesn't usually boost stuff. Basically, they give you extra points at the end of the game. They multiply points, etc. So, like, obviously this right now doesn't make too much sense, so we're just going to skip the text on it, but you would get 2 for each of your mage lords plus 6. So this would be plus 6 definitely, and then you do 2 multiplied by that particular number. We'll explain more later in the next video. So, like I said, I'm just going to put this guy over here for a sec. You can either choose the location that came out at the start of the game, or you can choose up to 1 out of up to 4 tiles.
So once you decide to draw tiles from the top of the stack, then you can't choose the one that's already out.
Right. So I would not be able to look at Hydrozoa reserves the second that I picked up. I could pick up 1, I could pick up 2, I could pick up 3, I could pick up 4. 4 is the maximum that you can choose from. Now I would flip these over and look at them and see, is that a particular location that I want to use? They have some pretty interesting art on these cards, which we like a lot. But basically, you look at these cards and you would these boards, and you would say, okay, well, I'm going to pick that one, or etc. Why would and you might ask, why would you only pick up 1? Why would you only pick up 2? Or why would you only pick up 3? Well, when you pick up 4, you look at it, you determine which one you like the best, which will give you the most points at the end of the game. But now, the 3 others that you did not pick, they are up for grabs. Your opponents can now pick these 3 among the ones that are available.
When they're ready to get a location.
Yeah, when that person is ready to get a location. So obviously they'd have to get 3 keys, either through a lord that has 3 keys or acquiring 3 lords that have 1 key each. Or, like I said, when I fought that one monster, I got 1 key. So I could combine this with 2 lords if I bought those 2 lords, and then I would have 3 keys. Now, the other important thing about locations, like I said, I'm ignoring text right now. For a lord that has 3 keys on him, I'm just using the board. This isn't how you normally do it, but just for space sake. Let's say I got the jail. This lord has 3 keys. Whenever you buy a lord that has 3 keys, he automatically gets locked with, you pick one of those locations, and now that lord is locked into this location. If I had 2 lords that only had 1 key and I didn't have the key in my reserve, then I couldn't get a location yet. But basically, you always lock lords in. So let's say I do have that 1 key, and let's pretend that I have this lord and this lord in my play area. This is the board, but let's just say it was my play area. I had 1 key, so I have 3 keys. I could pick one of these 4 locations, or I could draw 4 from there, etc. And I would take whatever location I chose, and I would put it here. Okay, and so yeah, that would be that. and that's how locations work.
So as you can see, the text on the lords is now covered. Whatever their previous ability was, they don't have it anymore because they're now occupied keeping that location.
Yeah. So a lot of the lords give you special benefits, which we'll go over in our video about lords. But once the lords are locked into a particular location, that lord can no longer perform his special ability.
All right.
All right. So that was that. And yeah. So in the next video, it's not going to be just the basics video. We're going to do advanced concepts next time. And we're going to discuss all the different lords that are possibilities in terms of what you can do with them, what their special abilities are, and yeah, how that affects gameplay.
All right. Thanks so much for watching our video. Remember, if you enjoyed this, you can subscribe to our channel where we'll be making regular updates.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
All right. Thanks. See you in the next video.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.